This is the seventh video on our performance appraisal series, and in this video we are going to look at the art and arts of feedback. Feedback is the bedrock of every performance appraiser, and especially your improvement plan. The goal of performance appraiser is again to ensure that employees get better at their jobs. This cannot happen if there is no communication, if there is no two-way communication where we hear from the employee and the management also give feedback. And even when the entire performance appraisal process is concluded, it is still important for feedback to continue. It is still important for the ensuing results to be a continuing conversation. And so feedback is the system that ensures that that conversation continues and that that conversation does not end. And so let's talk about feedback. Now, feedback have the art and the art itself. Now, in the art of the feedback, which is the technical component of providing feedback, what are some of the components that we are looking for? Number one is timeline. In evaluating a person's performance, we want to look at whether the person is meeting the timeline that is set for every task or that is set for every goal. It's not just that the job has been done. Was the job done on time? The next is specificity. Specificity here speaks to the accuracy of the task itself. Was the task accomplished, or was the objective accomplished with the specific tool, or with the appropriate tool, or with the appropriate ingredients if you are doing business that requires ingredients? Was it achieved with the required ingredients? If it is not achieved with the required ingredients, then there is a need for a conversation on that matter. If the measures, for example, if you're in manufacturing, and maybe you are dealing with processing, food processing, and the required amount of ingredients was not used, probably because the employee in his senses thinks that he should save some ingredients, then there is a need for a conversation around that subject. Next is evidence. Your conversation has to be driven by evidence. For example, if you are in food processing, the staff have produced a particular product, you tested the product and you know that a particular ingredient was not put in with the required measured or was over, right? That is an evidence. So it is important for you that in your feedback that you also provide your employees with evidence. As a matter of fact, I will emphasize that you shouldn't provide feedback to your employees if you do not have evidence of the things that you want to criticize them on. It is important that you have it in your hand and that you get them to see that what you are saying is not just because you don't like them. It is because there is an evidence. The next is objectivity. Sure, in many of our videos on this series, I've hammered the issue of the need for you to remain objective in the entire process. And being objective means also that in feedback, you ensure that you don't over speak when you are not supposed to on any matter. It's important to keep your interactions and your conversations as straight to the point as possible. No name calling, no insults, right? Then now let's talk about the art itself. The art itself. What are some of the things you need to be able to provide an effective feedback? Number one is empathy. You need to be empathetic about your staff. You need to understand, especially if you have journeyed through your career to the level where you are, you understand that you can understand every bit of the plight of every employee. You must allow that your understanding to be reflective in your communication and in the manner in which you approach them, or in the manner in which you criticize you criticize your employees. Then number 2 is emotional intelligence. It is important to always understand that not every person has the emotional constitution to withstand certain level of criticism. So even though you may want to use harsh words in your criticism, you need to evaluate the person you are talking to, because your goal is not just to upset people. Your goal is not just to make a point. Your goal is to get people to understand you and then improve their performance. So it is important for you to ensure that the person is in a stable state emotionally to listen to what you are saying, and that you're also able to drive the person to that point. If you are dealing with an entrepreneur that you know has a temperament problem, you need to also apply emotional intelligence to ensure that you're able to manage that person's emotions. The next is respect. Your employees are human beings. They are people with dignity. If you are leading a big organization, many of them are married, they have wife, they have children, they have dependents. They are not people that should be disrespected just because they underperformed, right? You are trying to address their underperformance. Don't give them a reason to think that you have an ulterior motive for doing that. And that is what happens when you disrespect people. When you disrespect people, they disregard every other thing you are saying, irrespective of how legitimate and how critical whatever it is you are saying is. You give them a reason to underplay whatever it is that you have said, and whatever point you have made, and to now start majoring on the fact that you do not regard them. So ensure that you are respectful in your conversations as much as possible. The next is good communication. If you do not have a good communication skill, you shouldn't be conducting performance appraisal. As a HR professional, one of the things you should have is good communication skills. But then I've stumbled into a couple of HR professionals whose communication skills is completely nothing to write about. But then when it comes to providing feedback, you need to understand the role of good communication skills. You need to be able to have that good communication skills that can warrant people to listen to you, and warrant people to also be able to understand what exactly you are trying to communicate. And also ensure that also increase the quality of that communication. Ensure that that communication is not just a criticism badge, that it is also a two-way thing where you're able to communicate and you're able to get the person to agree with you, and you're also able to reach an amicable agreement, an implementable agreement with the employee on the way forward. So in providing feedback, you focus on behavior rather than personality. Be specific, then balance positive and corrective feedbacks, and then also encourage dialogue. It shouldn't be a one-field conversation. You should allow the employee or the person you are providing feedback to also air his or her opinion. Finally, people don't often reject feedback. They reject the delivery process of feedbacks. So if you realize that people are kicking against your feedback, it is probably because of the way you are delivering the feedback. Thank you very much for watching. Drop your thoughts in the comment section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.